There are only so many coincidences one can be expected to ignore. Where do we begin? Begin with the past, the history of the earth. Pretty much dead on a cycle. The same things happen over and over and over again. Earth's magnetic field starts to weaken. The magnetic poles start to shift. Volcanoes get out of control. The climate gets out of control. The sun attacks the earth, for lack of a better phrase. And so the first thing we have is pretty darn good evidence of this thing happening over and over and over again on this cycle. And we are perfectly due for that cycle to be happening again. And not only are we perfectly due, but everything you would expect to see in terms of Earth's magnetic field is happening right on cue. Just like you're waiting for a train at a train station, you know it's supposed to arrive every 10 minutes. If those 10 minutes are about up and you hear the horn coming from around the corner, you can be sure a train's coming. What has gotten really interesting is not only that this story is told from the past by the rock and the sediment, but it's told in some of the most important stories, whether those count as mythology, religion, any other ancient story that one might want to come from with Sumeria or Egypt. And it turns out it's not just the natural world that is changing in the exact way it did before, but it's changing in the way that these stories said would happen. So are the people. What we've seen the last couple of years, the trends over the last several decades. Do you guys recognize this from any books you have? Now, I found these stories in Indian Sanskrit texts. They're in the Quran, but I'm imagining more people here are a little familiar with the Bible than anything else. Myself as well. As a man of science, statistics, and math, I have to look at how much everything lines up, not just in the natural world, but in terms of the way people are acting and society is changing. And I have to say, that's too many coincidences. That can't be a statistical anomaly. And I have to ask myself how these people knew what was going to happen all those years ago. That answer is still fairly elusive, how they knew all those answers. Defector. So, we started with the Earth, history, threw in a little bit of religion and mythology and ancient stories. Let's jump all the way out to the galaxy level, shall we? Whether we're looking in a laboratory, we're looking at an individual star, or we're looking at all the galaxies that we can actually study at this level, they all have three things in common when there's a powerful spinning magnet at the center. There's a jet that goes north and south. There's a torus of energy wrapped right around the equator of the central magnetic object, and then rippling away from it is an electric current sheet. Billy used to do this in the lab. Anybody been watching long enough to know who Billy is? All right, there we go. Not all, ain't everybody gonna make it. I remember when he told me that in 2011. And I was like, nuh-uh. Well, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. I didn't realize how many non-player characters there are in the world. Quite a few. Billy did it in the lab, Berkeley did it in the lab, Yale did it in the lab, Harvard did it in the lab. They see it with our sun and in our solar system. They see it at all the other stars. They can study in this way, they see it in the Milky